Well, Kentucky gun shop. You remember Kentucky? You remember that really bad incident that happened in a bank in Kentucky last April, Tim? You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, there was a few things about that were a little amiss, a little awry, that for some reason wasn't covered on the mainstream media. It was really weird. But the perpetrator of that, his entire point was to make himself bigger by furthering the idea that we need more gun control and how easy it was to buy a gun, air quote, right?
Right. He was an anti-gunner that went out and killed a bunch of people to prove a point.
Yes. I was beating around the bush, but you just dove right in. So that's exactly what happened. So this is number one. Families sue Kentucky gun shop that sold the AR-15 used in the 2023 bank shooting that killed 5. Now, Tim, the reason that I want to talk about this is, one, it was obvious from the get that the guy was out to make himself more important than he felt. Obviously, like if you go into his actual writings and all that stuff, like in number 2 right here, it even says it. He wrote in his journal that the gun was so easy to buy. Well, okay. That seems like if you're a gun control advocate and you want to make a statement that they could probably stand on to do more damage to the gun world, that's a pretty good statement to do it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's expand upon this just briefly, if I may.
Yeah,
the gun was easy to buy. So when the NICS system came into being, right, the whole point of it was that it had to be instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the convenience. They didn't want American gun owners to be denied being able to pick up their firearm at the time of purchase for safety reasons. They were trying to be accommodating. So by design, the NICS system was supposed to be instant. It was supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be painless, but it was supposed to do a background check to make sure lunatics like this couldn't get a hold of them. Mm-hmm. Once again, it failed. About 94%, according to ATF, 94% of background checks that come back as negative, don't proceed, false. It doesn't work. Anyway.
That's weird. Yeah, no, I think that was a good addendum, if you will. Yeah. But I think that's an important piece here. But when you're talking about that piece, like the NICS, the background check systems, the propagated point that says we need universal background checks, even though you have universal background checks across the board inside FFLs, right?
Right.
You're not getting around that. But here's what's really interesting, and I find this absolutely fascinating because this is a civil suit. And the left, particularly Everytown for Gun Safety, they are using lawfare to attack the gun world, in which case Congress is not helping them, the judicial is not helping them. So they're resorting to just bullying people, okay? So this is number 3. The civil suit filed in Louisville alleges River City Firearms should have been more suspicious of the sale and noticed red flags when the entire purchase was going on. So here's my question to you, Tim. If you put yourself in the position of someone working the counter, right? Because you have an affiliation with a gun shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you're in that interaction, if someone's not threatening anybody, no one's screaming, not acting erratically, how are you going to possibly know that they may have mental illness and then they pass the background check system?
So this is an interesting statement, right? That you just read.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, they should have done more. There should have been red flags. Funny tie in there. There should have been red flags that told this gun store not to sell him a firearm. Well, like what? What did he say? Apparently you were privy to the conversation in the whole sales episode. So what was said? But they leave that out. They're just saying, well, they should have known, because all gun store employees, you didn't know this, but they all go to ESP training and they become very proficient mind readers. Not
right.
Yeah, there are certain things that are red flags, like walking in reeking of alcohol or drugs or something like that most gun stores will tell you, no, sorry, not today, buddy. Right. But if somebody just walks in, even if they're just a little bit off, we see people come in that are just socially awkward. Are you supposed to say you can't have a gun because you're socially awkward? You might be autistic or something like that? No. Because that's not a disqualifying thing.
Exactly right. Now,
we had a guy come in to buy something that literally had a bra on his face during COVID. He took a cup from a bra and made a mask out of it.
But Tim, though, if you're going to do it, that's not a bad place to be. I'm going to be real with you.
Is that a red flag, though? Should he have been denied a sale because he had a bra on his face?
What state were we in? Because in California that might fall under inclusion. Anyway, avoiding the scorn of YouTube. Exactly. Let me show you some stuff here, Tim, because I think this is where we've laid the groundwork for the beautiful people of Second Legacy. Now listen to this, because you like mind reading. Check this out. This is number 5, Doctor. River City Firearms is a federal licensed dealer, which means the sellers there are trained, this quote, to train to spot individuals who may have nefarious intentions, according to the lawsuit. Listen to this. Patrons inside the store said that this individual had little knowledge of firearms and appeared embarrassed during the purchase, the lawsuit said. The shop has a legal duty to withhold the sale. Yeah.
He didn't know anything about guns, and he was
embarrassed.
And he was embarrassed. Yeah, definitely disqualifying. They're going to lose this lawsuit. This is the ridiculousness of the moronic gun grabbers, dude. This is why I was interested about number 3, right? When I was saying, well, what were you privy to this conversation? So now we find out that he was just a little socially awkward, didn't know a whole lot about guns. That's about 90% of the people that come into gun stores.
Easily.
And then he was embarrassed. He was nervous buying a gun. Any first-time gun buyer is going to exhibit all those qualities. And what are you supposed 100%. To say? Well, this is your first one, buddy. None for you.
Exactly. And if you look at all the gun buying demographics, it was like 20 or 30% of all guns bought were the first-time purchases. I mean, like in the past 2-3 years.
Especially over the last 4 years. Yeah.
Right. It's just mind-boggling the levels that they'll go to. But when I'm about to show you who did this, Tim, for some reason, I think everything's going to become clear. Are you ready for the clairvoyant moment?
No, let's do this.
Number 6. Let's get it. So here's who's suing them. The families of 2 of the deceased victims, Joshua Barrick and James Tutt, are plaintiffs in the lawsuit, along with 3 shooting survivors. Okay, that's pretty normal. Here's the giveaway. The lawsuit was filed by lawyers from the Chicago law firm of whatever, along with Louisville Attorney and Everytown Law, a Washington-based firm that seeks to advance gun safety laws in the courts. So we've got one person
to ban guns in the courts. Has nothing to do with safety laws.
Exactly. So we have one attorney in Louisville to give them standing. Then you have a Everytown for Gun Safety's law firm side from Washington State and a Chicago law firm acting in Kentucky. Anybody else smell kind of like... You smell what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is heard. This case is heard in Kentucky, and it won't go very far.
I would love to hear it.
Very far.
I mean, seriously, after all, he was nervous.
Think about the precedent that something like this would set if it were to happen and go through, right? So just extrapolate this out past firearms, because this will get extrapolated out past firearms if this is allowed to stand. Now you can sue every dealership that sells a car to somebody that their teenage driving first-year driving student goes out and kills themselves or somebody else, and just sue the dealership. And if you can't sue them, then sue the manufacturer for your child's misuse of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. You know, let's sue all the liquor stores that sell alcohol because of all the drunk drivers on the roads. It's the liquor stores' problem. I'm sure those people come in embarrassed buying their first bottle of liquor and don't know much about alcohol. You shouldn't sell them alcohol. They're going to go out and get in a wreck. You know, it's like, where does this stop? This is lunacy, holding an innocent gun store accountable for something a criminal did. They're not clairvoyant. They don't know. And no, there isn't formal training for gun store employees to learn how to read people.
And even if there
name
was...
it. Yeah, name the organization, the certifying organization that does this. They don't exist.
Right. I'm pretty sure that embarrassment and lack of knowledge doesn't qualify for red flags. I'm sorry. I'm just a guy on the internet. But like, I don't know. It just seems a pretty low bar.